Welcome back. This is your latest housing market update based on a brand new report from the National Association of Realtors just posted on July 20th this year. They reported that home sales in the US continue to slide, yet home prices are getting very close to reaching new all-time record highs, which is absolutely insane and not sustainable, given the fact that average mortgage rates are around 7% right now. 1 year ago at this time, they're around 5.7%. So let's go ahead and dive right into the video. I have a lot to share, especially regarding my own analysis of their data regarding home sales as well as home prices as well, that you will not see anywhere else, I guarantee it. So here's a look at closed home sales on a seasonally adjusted annualized basis here. And by the way, the National Association of Realtors includes closed home sales for these properties, single family houses, townhomes, condos, as well as co-ops. So the number of home sales, again, seasonally adjusted and analyzed for June was 4.16 million. The last time we had sales this low was back in January this year at 4 million closed home sales. Also at 4.16 million, this is a decrease of 3.3% compared to May and a giant decrease of nearly 19% compared to June of 2022. Now that's for the US as a whole. It varies quite a bit depending on the region though as well. So regarding home sales from 1 year ago, each of these major regions here, the Northeast, the Midwest, the South, and the West, decreased by more than 16%. The biggest decrease is actually in the West, falling by 22.7%, and after that was the Northeast, falling by 21.5% year over year. Now the month-to-month changes vary drastically as well. The Northeast increased by 2%, the Midwest was flat compared to May, but we saw decreases of more than 5% in the South as well as the West. Now here's a look at my own analysis of the National Association of Realtors data here. So for the month of June, 4,160,000, it has now decreased in 15 out of the past 17 months. Home sales have decreased for 15 out of the past 17 months. On top of that, when looking at the sales pace this June, when looking at pre-pandemic levels, this is the lowest levels going back to July of 2011. At 4.16 million, you have to go all the way back until right here, July 2011, when at that time the sales pace was at 4,150,000. Additionally, at the current sales pace right now, it's not too far off January's numbers at 4 million. At that time, that was the lowest levels since October of 2010. Additionally, there's two more things I want to touch on regarding sales numbers right now, because this decrease year over year, down by nearly 19%, marks the 22nd consecutive month in which home sales are down on a year over year basis. One more thing I do want to mention regarding these sales numbers for June. This is really what our housing market was like back in April and May when the home seller accepted the offer from the home buyer. So back in April and May, the average 30-year fix was around 6.4%. So when looking at July's numbers, which will be a measure of contracts being signed in May and June, July's numbers should look a little bit lower than June's numbers because rates have increased, going from 6.4% in April and May to around 6.7% in May and June this year. To me, what's going to be really interesting regarding July's numbers, if we get below 4 million sales, that'll be the lowest levels going back to at least October of 2010. Therefore, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and I'll definitely keep you posted with the latest developments. Okay, with that said, let's talk about trends we're seeing right now regarding the median sold price in the US. This is based on my own analysis of their data. Here is the two columns I pulled from the website here. This is actually from the National Association of Realtors website here. Everything else is based on my own analysis here. So regarding home prices, the median sold price this June was $410,200. Not too much far off the all-time record highs that was set 12 months ago back in June of 2022 when the median sold price was $413,800. In fact, rolling down by 0.9% compared to the all-time record highs set last year. Can you say not sustainable? And off to the right here, I have some metrics I pulled here. So the correction last year, which was from June through January of this year, or June last year to January this year, was a decrease in the median sold price down by nearly 13%. That was last year's correction due to the fact that rates more than doubled, and of course inventory levels skyrocketed as well. That's why home prices decreased by 12.7%. But ever since then, which is January through June this year, home prices have increased by 13.6%. A gain in home prices in just 5 months, a gain of 13.6%. So that's obviously the reason why home prices are only down by 0.9% on a year-over-year basis, whereas back in, let's just go at last month, it was a decrease of 3%. So because prices have increased by nearly 14%, that's why home prices are getting very, very close to new all-time record highs, which is absolutely crazy. But wait, there's more, because when looking at home price changes on a month-to-month basis, this marks the 5th consecutive month in which home prices have been increasing. We are seeing a seasonal uptick in home prices, but this 3.5% gain compared to May is actually on par with the averages going back to 2010. So for example, based on my nerdy Excel formula right here, the average June month-to-month change, this is the average change from May to June each year going back to 2010, is an increase of 3.7%, whereas this year it was a gain of 3.5%. So on par with historical averages in the US here. Now here's what does not agree with historical averages, because this decrease of 0.9%, again, that's a decrease on a year-over-year basis, but also the decrease compared to the all-time record highs, which happened to be just 12 months ago back in June. So home prices have decreased by 0.9% on a year-over-year basis here, but this year-over-year change is much lower than the average going back to 2010. Also, this marks the 5th consecutive year-over-year decrease after 11 years of increases. That's just absolutely mind-blowing, because 5 consecutive decreases after 11 years of home price gains. So but here's what gets really interesting here. This decrease of 0.9% on a year-over-year basis is much worse than the 6.7% average June to June each year going back to 2010. So to briefly summarize here, this month-to-month gain, a gain of 3.5%, is on par with historical averages, but this decrease of 0.9% is of course much worse than the average of a 6.7% increase going back to 2010. Also, if you're curious to see the changes in home prices over the last several years, when looking at the median sold price this June compared to June of 2021, it's still an increase of 12%. Also, over the past 3 years, going back to 2020, we're still up by 39%. Also, home prices have increased by 44% from June 2019 to June this year. Therefore, taking a step back here, it's nice to see that home prices are down by about 0.9%. However, when accounting for the fact that prices have been increasing so much over the past 3 years, we're still up by 44% from pre-pandemic levels. Also, just for fun, when looking at the changes in home prices from June 2008 to June 2009, the median sold price nationwide decreased a whopping 16%. And here's a chart showing home prices over the past 12 months, according to our good Uncle Fred here. Of course, the source here is NAR. As you can see, home prices tanked after June last year, and the trough really was in January this year at 361,000, a slight increase in February, and then home prices skyrocketed all until last month. All right, in any case, let's get back to the National Association of Realtors press release here. But let me know what you guys think about that analysis regarding home prices, because that tends to take me hours to make each and every month here. And I'm mentioning this because I really like to see changes, especially compared to pre-pandemic levels. But the National Association of Realtors only had this to say regarding home prices in their press release here. It says the median existing home price for all housing types in June was $410,200, the second highest price of all time, and down by 0.9% from the all-time record high that was set last year. The monthly median price surpassed $400,000 for the third time, joining June 2022 and May 2022. Prices rose in the Northeast and the Midwest, but waned in the South and West. And according to Lawrence Yun, who's NAR's chief economist, he stated the following: home sales fell, but home prices held firm in most parts of the country. Limited supply is still leading to multiple offer situations, with 1/3 of houses getting sold above the list price in the last month. Meanwhile, total housing inventory by the end of June was 1.08 million units, identical to May, but down by 13.6% from 1 year ago. Meanwhile, the month supply is only at 3.1 months at the current sales pace, up from 3 months in May and up from 2.9 months in June 2022. And here's a look at those inventory numbers: 1,080,000 this June, identical to May, but much lower than last year at 1.25 million. If you guys follow the channel, you may recognize that these numbers are a little bit more inflated compared to Realtor.com, Redfin as well, and also AltosResearch.com. In my personal opinion, the reason for this is due to the fact that this is encompassing all housing types, but also because potentially they may be including some pending home sales in their numbers. If you guys know why these numbers are inflated though, then please leave a comment below. Also, one more thing I do want to mention regarding inventory numbers is they only show the last 12 months on Fred's website. So here's a really good chart I found on calculatedriskblog.com. This is the source here is the National Association of Realtors. This is a look at housing inventory going back to January of 1999. So again, right now we have around 1 million houses for sale, well below pre-pandemic levels back in, let's just call it 2013 through 2019. We had over 1.5 million houses for sale, in the range of 1.5 to almost 2.5 million. Now we only have 1 million. Also at 1 million, this is well below the craziness we had back in 2006 through 2009, when there was actually over 3 million houses for sale. And in January 2008, it actually surpassed 4 million. One more thing that's important to note as well is that the run-up to the Great Recession of 2008, the levels right now for inventory at 1 million units is also much lower than 1999 through 2005, when the range was around 1.7 million to about 2.5 million houses for sale. Something else I found to be interesting as well is that in January 2020, again, right before the onset of COVID, we still had very, very low levels of inventory, historically speaking. After that, inventory levels fell off a cliff, or actually nosedived, because demand absolutely spiked in the second half of 2020 through the first half of 2022. Okay, let's get back to NAR's press release here. Regarding how fast or how slow houses are selling, this June, days in the market was 18 days, identical to the previous month, but up from 14 days in June of 2022. Also, 76% of houses that sold this June were on the market for less than 1 month. First-time home buyers were responsible for 27% of all home sales this June, down from 30% from 1 year ago. Also, a lot of people asked me about this as well. All cash sales accounted for 26% of all transactions this June, and that's up from 25% last month and also 25% from a year ago as well. Meanwhile, individual investors or second home buyers, which of course make up many cash sales, purchased 18% of the houses that sold this June, up from 15% in May and up from 16% in June of 2022. Meanwhile, distressed sales pretty much remain non-existent because that represented about 2% of all home sales this June, identical to last month, and of course identical to 1 year ago as well. Okay, before I wrap today's video up, I want to share 2 more slides with you guys. This is a depiction of closed home sales this June by region. So of all the closed home sales this June, 46% came from the South, 24% came from the Midwest, 18% came from the West, and 12% came from the Northeast. I actually was pretty surprised to see that the South was nearly half of all home sales in the U.S. Another slide I also want to share as well is this right here. This is a percent change in closed home sales this June compared to a year ago by price range. The biggest decrease, not surprisingly, is in the more affordable market here, in the range of $100,000 to $250,000, a decrease of 18% year over year. Of course, this makes sense given the fact that the median sold price is around $410,000. So of course, there's not going to be a lot of houses that sold for less than $250,000, or should be a decrease compared to a year ago, I should say. The biggest decrease was actually in the range of $500,000 to $750,000, down by 16.7%. Meanwhile, houses that sold for over $1 million nationally decreased by 13.1% from 12 months ago. So please leave a comment below your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you guys got any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate you for watching today's video. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.